You don't drink tea?
I do, but I have to really be in the mood for it. I'm an absolute coffee addict, so it's 8 cups of coffee a day, and you know waiting for my heart to give out any season.
So have they revoked your Brit card yet because you don't
Not
drink tea?
quite, not
Okay.
quite, but if they ever do, that puts me in more peril of if I don't have a country back home and then they kick me out of this one, who knows what happens? Just wander until someone takes me.
Yeah. Well, this is so familiar for me because doing the improv with the guys from the UK. Almost
Yeah.
everybody I talk to on Zoom is from the UK, so it's kind of funny.
Well, welcome to the podcast, then, Mike.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
We always just slide straight into it. I'm always just there's no formal introduction. We just kind of slip into these
Oh,
things.
there's
So
no formal introduction. Okay. Well, I like to be informal, so that's great.
yeah, I mean, I started off with like a really basic, non-threatening question of who are you and what you do. So so it's kind of very much more. I'm intending to give you a little existential crisis at the very beginning of the podcast.
Oh, that's fine. I've been dealing with an existential crisis for like 63 years, and I'm 63 years old, so that's I'm used to that. So, but
Fair enough.
basically, my name is Marty Gordon. I'm currently residing in Lake Stevens, Washington, which is just outside of Seattle. Um, Having just moved from Atlanta, because we tried to live in Atlanta for 3 years and we didn't. We just didn't care for it, so we came back to the Pacific Northwest. And who I am is basically I am, despite what job I may end up with or what I do for a living, really has nothing to do with who I am. Who I am is I'm an artist. I'm a creative person. That's what I identify as, and um, I, that's what I do. I just like to be creative and do creative things. And, of course, life doesn't allow you to do that 24 hours a day most of the time. But if I could, I would. Um,
Very true. Yeah, and I think that's why I was interested to talk to you because it kind of shone through when I looked at your stuff, and I did a bit of research on you, obviously, because I need to know who I'm talking to.
because that's your job.
Because it's a responsible thing to do to find out who you're spending time with. But I think you were recommended to me by Jess Ingram, if you know who he is. He's Captain Love Handles
Yeah.
on the internet. Yeah,
Yes. I met him at the Oddities Museum in Atlanta,
yeah,
which was a part of Atlanta that I did love because the people there are incredible and nice and awesome. And I can't think of a single person I met there that wasn't just a stellar person. So I do miss those folks.
yeah. I saw on your profile it said you're represented by the Oddities Museum.
Well, what happened was when I met Jeremy, the owner of the Oddities Museum, um, we just basically hit it off. And so just about every art show he had after we met, he would include me. And then he made a little space on his wall in their store for my art. And then the next thing I know, the collage meetup group that I had created in Atlanta was meeting there. And then right before we left Atlanta, he had a big show of my art, which was the most successful art show I've ever had, in terms of sales. Um, and so they asked me if I would leave some of my art with them to continue to keep selling. So I don't know what to call that other than basically they represent me and they sell my art. So
Yeah,
um,
like your
so they're
biggest sponsor.
yeah, they're great people, and I don't know what I'd do without them because they were basically one of the few high points of living over on that coast for a little while.
Yeah.
So
But yeah, I think those again, kind of like I dove into your work, and what also made me laugh was I think you have one of the best usernames I've come across in a very long time with Whatwouldjesusglue. I was like, I'm in. It doesn't matter whatever he's making, I'm in because the username is perfect.
Yeah. And so do you know the story behind that?
No,
Um,
feel free to share.
I used to be a minister.
Right.
Um, back in the day, I guess that's what the old people say. Back in the day, so I was a minister, but just over time and a lot of negative things happening, I don't do that anymore. And
Sure. Yeah.
basically kind of went through I guess what started as a shift in faith and then basically a loss of faith. Um, and by that time we had moved to Seattle, and I had a friend who he's also a very creative, wonderful guy. And we meet for coffee occasionally, and I was just getting into the collage work at that time, and he said, "Have you ever thought about using your work to work through some of your loss of faith issues?" And I said, "No, I hadn't thought of that, but now that you say that, I think I will." And so if you look at my early work, there's a lot of questioning religion, questioning questioning the Bible, questioning religion, questioning faith, making fun of it. But not in a bad. I tried to never put Jesus in a bad light because I have nothing against Jesus. Um,
Yeah.
but just the ridiculousness of some of the things that religious institutions and things like that have built over time. And so my earlier work dealt with that. And so that's where the whole name What Would Jesus Glue came from. Because the whole What Would Jesus Do thing was very popular at that time. Um, and it just came from there. Um, and you're not the first. I went to a collage meetup in another city one time, and I walked in, and I knew the person that was running it, but I'd never met them face to face. So we met, and she turned around and addressed the entire room. She goes, "This is Marty. He has the greatest Instagram handle in the world." And I said, "Well, I don't know if that's true, but okay, I'll take it."
It just rolls off the tongue too well. And then obviously when I looked at your work and I saw you do the blends of kind of, like say, questioning topics and questioning not necessarily faith, but questioning the systems and
Yeah.
all that kind of inclusion. I was like, it blends too well together. So yeah, regardless of whatever you were putting out. But I'm curious then if you were getting into collage and discovering that you could use it to deal with your own personal questions, what were you creating before that?
I wasn't creating much
Yeah.
because I was involved in, the being a minister kind of thing. I was always interested in using my creativity um, with my faith.
Mm-hmm.
But let me just say, I'll try to say it in a nice way. Um, Religious people don't take to that too well because, for the most part, they're not very creative people. They've shut off that part of their soul, and they can't accept anything that's um, even slightly off what they consider to be appropriate for um, doing church. So any almost any type of creative thing that I would try to do um, was met with rejection or even and if I did it, there was always a well that oh that's cute or something like that. But um, so I was not able to do what I felt like I wanted to do with that within a church environment, um, which may have been a small part of me losing my faith, but it's not the largest part of that. It was a process of a lot of different things happening um, simultaneously and over time that led to I didn't make that decision lightly. I went
No,
through
I wouldn't have thought so.
no, I mean, I went through, I mean, even after I wasn't a minister, I continued to
Yeah.
go to church for a while.
Mhm.
Um, and even continued to try to do some creative stuff. And it just never worked out the way I'd hoped. So I just kind of did my own thing, you know?
All you
Um,
can do. Yeah.
so, but yeah, and before that, I mean, I would pull out the paints
Mm.
and, try to do something creative every once in a while, but nothing. I was always so busy. I never had time to really get into it. But it was when I met my wife, when we started dating, she's the one that started getting me into collage. Um,
Yeah.
I had never really done a whole lot of collage, but she got me into it, and it was something that we would do together. We would just sit together, and I mean, we would either talk or we wouldn't talk, and we would just sit and make collages for hours sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, and that's how I got and I never knew. I mean, I'm like 20 plus years into like being a collage artist, even though I do other things.
Yeah.
And I really do enjoy it. But there are times when I get a little tired of it and I kind of move away from it for a while. I don't know if you know, I draw monsters too.
I did find your
Yeah.
book where you drew one basically every day. I was reading.
Sometimes, yeah, that was when I was a little tired of collage. I went back to my earliest love, which was cartooning, and but those are just I've never done anything real serious with those. I basically most of the time I sit and just draw them while I'm watching TV or like this one I just showed you. I was just sitting at the kitchen table the other day talking to the family that we're staying with, and I my hand needed to be doing something, so I just grabbed the marker that was closest to me that belongs to one of my god kids, and just started drawing. And this is an envelope, so
Crazy.
my hand just needed to be doing something.
I
Um,
always find that interesting. I think like the amount of artists I speak to or meet, and they say like I did this practice for years, or I did this for years, but I always end up coming back to doodling, drawing in some capacity, just because it's always the first thing, which you kind of can do as a creative, I guess.
exactly.
Yeah.
I can remember being in the first grade. Well, I can remember further back than that. I remember in kindergarten not being able to really grasp the whole art thing.
Mhm.
And I only have one memory of making art, and it was we had to paint something. And so I just took paint and just scribbled it all over the 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 paper. And the teacher asked me what is it, and I said a forest fire. Um, so I guess that was creative in a certain way.
Yeah.
But then after that, in the first grade and beyond, I remember, I think it coincided with me finding old sci-fi and horror movies, watching those on TV, and also a love of dinosaurs, which I would check out dinosaur books from the school library. And so I remember drawing like astronauts have landed on this planet and there's dinosaurs and the dinosaurs eat the astronauts, you know, that kind of thing. And the weirdo that I am today was born from that, I guess.
You got to
So
see how much of that you can retain as an adult, I find. Because I think that weirdly, those three topics are things which all children at some point have an interest in, where you're into dinosaurs, you're into space, or you're into time travel.
yeah,
One of those will get you, or you combine all three. And then at some
exactly,
point, you kind of drift away from it. But some adults hold on to it and like, yeah, dinosaurs. We should throw dinosaurs in there.
exactly. So I have held on to it. I mean, physically I'm an adult, but up here, that first grader still lives.
It's the best thing to do. Best to
Yeah,
have a child living in your head and give them the pen every so often and just go do whatever you need to do.
ex-
It'll keep me younger.
Exactly. I try really hard. Since we're not in our own space right now, it's a little difficult to find the space and the time to make art, but um, I'm still trying to find little pieces of time to put something together. Uh, Even if it's just 10 or 15 minutes working on a collage. Even if it's just flipping through a magazine and cutting out an image that I think might make a good collage. I feel like that's putting my brain towards a creative pursuit for just a little bit of time. I feel like a lot of people they think, "Oh, well, I'm just not going to do anything unless I can get into the studio for 2 hours." No, you really shouldn't think that way. You should, if you've got 15 minutes, sit down and do something. Even if it's just like, if you're a writer, just free write. If you're a musician, just pick up your instrument and doodle a little bit. For me, it might be cutting out an image, or it might be just drawing a quick little monster, um, maybe I already cut out an image and all it needs to be done, all I need to do is glue it down. Because sometimes just finding those little moments are all you can do in a day when you're super busy with other things, with adulting, as we like to call it.
With the real world of adulting. Yeah,
Exactly.
I often think of it as it's kind of like it's like long term puzzle solving of you have a riddle or something in your brain of like I've got to create this thing, and then through the days or weeks, if even if you're not sitting down to purposely make something, you're always kind of trying to solve it. So like you say, doing little things like even if it's just flicking through just to get ideas or inspiration is incredibly important. Otherwise, you end up getting back to the time which you time box to create and then being stuck because you
Yeah.
just don't know how to go back to it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's, I've always, sometimes I'm working on, like when I had my studio set up, sometimes I'm working on 4 or 5 different things. Um, in Atlanta, we were lucky enough to have a pretty big townhouse, and I had several tables set up, and I could go to this table and work on this, or go to this table and work on this, or and sometimes I would kick myself for, I'm like, oh, you're not focused enough. You need to focus on one thing. But then I'm like, nah, because each thing that I'm working on feeds a different part of my creative self. Um, Even if it's something small, um, that little something is something that I need to do. Um, so I try to look at it that way.
So
But I do
you're always, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, as I mean, I do eventually want to carve out some time to make some bigger pieces, but I'm not sure when that's going to happen.
You say, like, how does that's an eternal question of how do artists focus on, on anything because we do so many different topics and so many works. Sitting down and actually making yourself go, right, I need to finish this thing
Yeah,
is, yeah, it's a technique in itself.
a lot of times getting a show is what kicks you into gear
True. Yeah.
because oh gosh, I have to hang this on a wall soon, so I have to finish it. Um, Otherwise, my brain will kick in and say, well, there's no hurry to finish that piece because it's just going to sit in a box with all the other art that you've made over the years that hasn't sold, which isn't the reason I make art. But the reality is there are boxes of art that I've made that it would be great to sell because I made it. I don't want to throw it away. Um,
Yeah.
which I do know artists who take their stuff and burn it.
Oh, I've done that.
Have
Yeah.
you? Yeah.
Yeah. I've more than once, I've just taken something and been, been basically felt, I think I get to a point of disconnect with some of the work which I've made, especially if it's older, maybe a couple of years old. I look back at it and I think I liked it and I still kind of like it, but I don't feel anything particularly for it anymore.
Yeah.
And so I either feel like I need to paint over it, make something new, something which I can connect with, or just get rid of it. Though I took that concept when I did a sculpture, because I'd gone into this habit of recycling my own work, where I destroyed the sculpture, but it was part of the process of creating the sculpture,
Yeah.
to essentially just pick fun at myself as well, of just like, you've fallen into this habit, Graham, of just ruining your own work.
Yeah. Well, before I did the show in Atlanta, I went through boxes of my art and I did pull some things that I didn't connect with anymore. But I put them because they're on wood panels that can be reused. I put them in a box to reuse them sometime in the future, um, when I can get them all out of storage. Um, but the only art that I've ever burned was I pulled all my college stuff out and I burned all that, because how many nude figure drawings do you need? You know,
Yep.
you
I
really,
had a mini
you really,
bonfire.
you really don't need, you really don't need 20 um, pads of paper with just quick nude sketches in them. You just really don't need that.
No. I think honestly the hardest part of destroying like college and university work was like the little notes and stuff. Like the final pieces I could get rid of, because I thought, yeah, I've got the negatives or something somewhere for like photographs or whatever. I've got like the final bits, but destroying sketchbooks was hard. But at the same time, they just take up so much space. I'm
They
never
do.
going to use it.
Yeah.
No one talks about the accumulation of artists' work.
No, they don't, but we're talking about it now.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I know. I know a couple of guys that live here in Seattle. They scan their sketchbooks and then destroy them. I think I've got one friend who he'll scan them and then he'll sell the sketchbook
Oh, that's interesting.
if he can find a buyer.
Yeah.
I had somebody ask me once if they could buy one of mine, but I when I thumb through them, I get ideas, and
Yeah.
I mean, I could scan them, but there's something about picking up an object and thumbing through it. It's just I there's no substitute for that. I don't want to be flipping through images on a computer when I could just be looking through a book. Um,
I
so
know if I scanned mine, it would just stay on a hard drive and never get looked at.
yeah,
Like,
I agree with you. But the unfortunate thing was in 1999, my apartment that I was living in burned, and I lost almost all of the college art that I made that I did like and kept, which wasn't a lot. I think I had gotten it all down into one portfolio, but it was in the closet where the fire started, so it all burned to a cinder. So really now all I have is I have the slides that I took back then of the art. So
such a shame.
it's all right. It's just stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Stuff. In the end, and you can make new stuff.
I can make new
No,
stuff.
can always make new stuff.
Exactly. The only thing
Always.
that I'm sad about is, are you familiar with calligraphy?
Yeah.
It's basically where you kind of build a collage print, um, and then you print it.
Yeah.
Basically, what prints is the texture. Um, I wish I had those collage. I wish I had those plates. I don't really care about the art itself, but I wish I still had the plates, because I could print those again. Um, but they're gone. They burned. So
You just have to reprint the ashes. That's all you can really do.
I'll just have to make new plates.
New plates.
So maybe one plate. So
We dive through topics. I did want to prompt you and ask: did you end up thinking of a topic for today? As a
well,
guest of today.
I came up with a couple of things, and we've talked about some of it. But this morning, when I was talking to my friends this morning that we're staying with, the subject of competition versus cooperation came up. And
Right.
that is a subject that has been on my brain and something that I really would like to work towards in the art world, probably until the day I die, because um, I'm actually seeing more comp- I'm sorry, more cooperation these days between artists than I used to. But but I still see a lot of competition between artists. And I really don't think it should be that way. I really think we should be working together as much as possible. They're not to say that an artist should never work by themselves is wrong. I mean, there are times when you're just going to want to be cloistered in your studio creating stuff for yourself. But when you do that too much, you end up craving community. Mm-hmm. And me and a friend of mine who lives here in Seattle have been we've collaborated on art for the entire, well, we met in 2011, so it's almost 14 15 years we've known each other now, and we have created thousands of pieces of art, mostly collage, that we collect into, usually what we do is collect them into books that we sell. We created this press called Microverse Press, and we sell the books. Usually we'll go out to a zine fest or something and sell them there, but I mean, you can buy them online. I don't know the website now, but if you Google Indie Planet Microverse Press, it'll pop up.
So we can find it.
And you can buy digital copies or hard copies it's like print on demand. But I just, when I was doing the art world thing in Seattle, it was fun for a while, but my goals weren't necessarily, it was really great to sell a piece of art. It was really great to get a piece into a show. But what I really wanted was community. And when I found out that most of the people that I was dealing with, once the show was over, once they got out of me what they wanted, community was not something that even though they had kind of alluded towards that, it ended up not being the case. And so I just felt like I ended up, I mean, probably didn't, but I just felt like a fool because I thought we were headed towards a friendship or a relationship of some sort. And really, it was just, they were going to sell my art and get their percentage, and then boom, it was over. And that's a shame because they're just, I'm all about building community. That's why I created that collage meetup group in Atlanta. Because sitting at home and creating art is great, but there are times when it's also great to sit across from someone else who thinks like you and can talk about things that no one else can talk to you about. I mean, I have so few people in my life that I can talk to about the really, really deep down art stuff that's in my soul. I can talk about surfacey things, but I can't bring up the real deep thoughts and ideas that I have with just anybody. I can count on one hand the people I can talk to those things about with. And I just want people to realize that when you hang a piece of art on the wall, the person with the piece next to yours is not your competition. That person is your brother, your sister, your comrade in art. And you should be pulling for one another, not saying, "Oh, I will destroy you. I will sell my piece and you will not sell yours. I will get." Of course, this isn't much the case anymore, but back in the day, it was like, "I will have 24,000 followers and you will only have 2,000." That sort of thing.
It's a strange. I think it's come up a few times. It's just a strange like barrier within the art world, because I'm glad you mentioned like zine fests as well there, because I've found there is a real difference between zine art creators and the rest of the art world in terms of how they approach collaboration and creation. Like gallery spaces and more kind of traditional format spaces have this veneer of collaboration. You know, it's artists. We're bringing artists together, come meet like-minded people, do that. And what you find is you end up with kind of commodifiers who look at art as a means to an end, like you say, where it's like, I'm going to make a piece of art or I'm going to put it in this gallery, we'll get a percentage, I'm going to make money and move on. And I've been to contemporary art spaces where people were there just to sell a book or just to push an agenda, which was then followed by, oh, and I can teach you this and I can teach you this, but you have to buy my book and you have to sign up for this subscription service. And
Yeah.
you like start thinking, this isn't art. This isn't creating a space where we can wax lyrical about topics. Whereas zine spaces, I've been, and there's less of that. There's less upfront fronting to it, where you kind of go and you're like, yeah, you follow each other, but then the next time you post something, they share your work, and you're like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
I've been supported by someone I met once for 20 minutes, but they happen to be pushing forward everything else we're pushing forward, and the idea
Well,
grows.
I feel like when you meet those people that get it, you just click. There's really no awkwardness. There's just a click. I met I think I can't remember his name right now, but I know his art. I met him at this last zine festival that we did, and we sort of were familiar with each other before we met in person, but we just clicked. I looked at this guy and I said, he gets it. And I'm sure he might have, I hope he looked at me and said, this guy gets it. Despite the fact that he's in his 20s and I'm in my 60s.
Yeah.
If you get it, you get it. And if you don't, you don't. And I will say that Atlanta does have when I first got there and started doing the few zine festivals that they have, and there are more popping up. There was this one young lady that I met that I talked to quite a bit, and I said, this might be wrong, and correct me if I am. I said, but I feel like the zine scene in Atlanta is very much in its infancy. Whereas when I was living in Seattle, I said, zines, I mean, this has been going on for 20 years or more. And she said, yes, I agree with that. I agree with that. She said, that's why we need these festivals. That's why we need, and she started a group. She started a press. She goes, that's why we need these groups. That's why we need these presses. She goes, and she really made me feel great. She goes, this is why we need. She goes, this is why ageism bothers me. She goes, because this is why we need people like you who've been doing it for a long time, but you don't have an attitude about it. You're out here just trying to promote and share and get as many people involved as possible. One of the things I wish I had more time for would be to just go to these festivals, and instead of setting up a table and selling my stuff, setting up a table over on the other side of the room and having, hey, come sit down with me, make a collage, come sit down with me, draw a sticker that we can take out and put on the wall or something. Just something that we can all sit around the table and do together. And if it's someone that likes to do art already, that's great. But sometimes you might get somebody to sit down and do something they've never done anything like that before, and they might leave changed.
Yeah.
I did see a couple of people like that with the Collage meetup group in Atlanta. They said, I just came because I didn't really know what it was going to be, but it sounded fun. And they were like, they left and they said, this was so fantastic. It was great. And I have no doubt that they're going to continue to make collage art.
I'm a big believer of kind of opening up spaces, and I organized a zine fest back in my hometown in the UK. We've been doing it for 3 years, but between the three of us, we had a firm belief of we're all older, like we're all in our 30s compared to the people who are getting into zines now, or 18 through 20s, and we said, well, realistically, none of us should have a table at this event. we should be giving spaces to people who need spaces, but we should have workshops. There should be a
Yes.
space where people can just come and just make something because they don't know that they know how to make things until they try it, like you say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of ways you could do that. Number one, you could have people sit at a table and make their own zine. Or number two, if you've got people that sit down, they're like, I don't know how to start. Well, have the person next to them start and then pass it to them. You could have a zine that was, one panel's by this guy, and then he passes it to the guy next to him and he makes a panel, and then he passes it to the guy next to him. And maybe that first guy already got up and he's walking around the room looking at other zines. But by the time he wanders back around, the zine is either finished or almost finished, and you've got a finished product.
Yeah. It's interesting as well. We kind of mentioned there where we were saying of kind of meeting like-minded people. I often find, at least personally, I tend to be quite cagey with meeting new people because I'm concerned of what they might be. Like
Well,
not like a physical level or anything like that, more in the sense of I don't really know who you are just yet. And then, like you say, 20 minutes in, I'm like, this person gets it. They understand. Yeah.
I think that's part of the reason that I just wear weird t-shirts.
Sure.
In the summertime, that's pretty much what I wear. And I feel like if a person doesn't like what's on my t-shirt, then that's not a person that, I mean, fine, it might not be their taste, but they're probably also not a person that I'm going to click with on a deep level. Like, I look at your shirt, Primus, amazing. I'm like, this dude's one of my people. And I've got one on that's got.
I was
one
going to
of my,
say yours is insane as well. Like,
well, this is a piece of art that I made.
It looks fantastic.
And I just wanted to put it on a shirt just to see how it looked.
Yeah.
So,
see, I think that's an underappreciated thing. Just to have a mild tangent of because I used to make t-shirts like back when I was first starting doing my art stuff. I was like self-employed. I was like, I'll make t-shirts, and I was trying to do brand design and all this kind of stuff, and it was incredibly uncomfortable, and I should never have done it because it was very restricting creatively. But since then, whenever I make something in my brain, I'm thinking, would I wear this? And I'm thinking, I should wear this because it like if I want people to see my stuff and I'm not getting into a gallery or a show, this is the easiest way to do it of when I walk down the street. Why not do that?
Yeah. Well, I'm fixing to say something that's going to sound arrogant, but I don't mean it in an arrogant way. I'm at a point in my life where if someone asked me who my favorite artist was, I think I might say me. Because I'm at a point in my life where I'm happy with what I'm doing and I enjoy looking at what I make just about as much, if not more, than what I see other people making. That's not to say that I don't love all the stuff I see. I love looking at art and looking at what other people make and different people's styles. And I mean, even still, I look at people and go, "Oh, I wish I could do that." But I've tried to kill that in me because that's them. That's not me. I'm making what I'm supposed to make, and they're making what they're supposed to make. It doesn't mean that I can't work on my skill level. I can, but I feel comfortable with who I am now, and comfortable enough to say that when I look at my art, I'm very interested in what I'm making and what I'm doing. And I don't mean when I say that I'm my favorite artist, I'm not trying to say it in an arrogant way. I'm trying to say it in a way so that people understand that I have finally gotten to a place in my life where I accept me and I like me and I like who I am. And I've never been in that place before. I wish I could have been there earlier. But maybe it's something that comes with age. I don't know. But
it very much seems like the goal, right? Like to be comfortable and happy with yourself and the stuff you're making. is essentially the goal, but it's extremely hard to get there.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of people are going to listen to this and say, oh, well, he thinks he's arrived. Not at all. I love to learn. As a matter of fact, my friend Craig and I, there is a place downtown in Seattle called the Vera Project, and they have a screen printing studio. And when I can figure out a date to do it, I'm going to take their introductory. You have to take a class to learn how to use their studio. I'm going to take that class, and then Craig and I are going to go down there and do some screen printing. And I am so looking forward to honing my skills and learning, because I used to screen print, but that was a long time ago. I'm sure there's different techniques and lots of different things that people do now that we weren't able to do, 20, 30 years ago. So I am all about learning as much as I can until the day I die. I mean, if I am physically able, I will be making art every day I can until the day I die, and learning as much as possible about the stuff I'm interested in until that day. So
Again, that comes back to what you were saying.
I'm just sad that I have to get a real life job eventually so that I have money to buy food.
Yeah, art supplies don't really fill the belly.
No, they don't. They don't. So, no, what were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say, like, and that it's like, obviously, I think there's a worry in artists of being egoed at times, but in some ways we have to be a little bit to keep doing what we do, right? We have to believe even just the smallest part that we know what we're doing. If every single time we make something, we're going to try and make something.
Yeah.
But it comes back to what you're saying, where you're saying it's less about competition and saying I'm the best ever and there's no one ever going to be anyone better than me,
right.
And more about looking at other people's work and finding inspiration in what they're doing and going, I love that. That's amazing. I want to go see what I can do with that. And maybe it's for me, maybe it's not for me. And again, it comes back to that kind of collaboration. I was talking to someone recently on the show, and we were talking about networking and talking to other artists and writers and comic creators. And she was saying she just emails people, basically cold calls people to get their opinion, just to talk to them, not to get any kind of payment or looking for a job, just saying, can I get 20 minutes of your time to just talk to you about what you do, not on a podcast or anything like that. And she said people are surprisingly responsive to it. And it's something we should encourage more of, just reaching out and saying, I'm interested in your experience and learning from that. Can I talk? Great, let's go for it.
Well, I think if an artist, I'm going to go back real quickly. I feel like the attitude that I have now is part and parcel. I did that to try and defeat imposter syndrome, which everybody has. You're in the room. I'm like, you're in a gallery. Let's say you're in a gallery. You're in a room full of people who are super talented, which is easy to do here in Seattle. I'm sure it's easy to do in New York. And I'm sitting there in the corner going, why am I here? I don't deserve to be here. I shouldn't be here. I'm not as good as these people, blah, 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 blah. Well, I have a friend who told me, and he didn't even know, he wasn't telling me this in the context of what I'm talking about, but he just told me, he said, in any situation, he said, you need to think to yourself, I'm in that room for a reason. And so I try to consider that. Why, I am in this room for a reason. Yeah, I'm always going to be, I will champion other artists as much as possible. If I have a friend who is an artist and they are much better suited for a project that someone's asking me to do, I will say, I think you should contact this person because they're going to be much better suited for this than me. I mean, I say I'm my favorite artist, but I still know I can improve. Oh my God. I keep trying to tell my godkids. One of my godchildren, she wants everything she draws to be great instantly. And I'm like, baby, I'm 63 years old and I still look at my stuff and go, oh,
Yeah.
this could be better. Come on. So, but I guess I'm just at a point where I'm just accepting what I do and I know I can do better. I just keep chugging along, working at it, day by day by day.
Best you can do. I was going to say, I think when people lose that hunger as artists to improve or keep trying, that's when the art dies. You know, the day you sit down and go, this is the best I will ever do, and I have no interest in even trying anything else. This is just what I'm going to keep doing. That to me, that's the saddest moment, you know,
Yeah.
to see someone go.
And I've pretty much given up on the idea of being discovered because so far, in my experience, the people that I know that were discovered, it it killed them artistically. Um, I have, I mean, I have one friend I can tell. I'm not going to use the name or anything, but he was accepted into a very prominent gallery here in Seattle, and we were all excited. We were like, "Oh, that's great! That's so exciting! This is so congratulations, all that kind of stuff." And then about 6 months later was the next time we saw him, and we were talking to him about it, and he said, "Oh, I left that gallery," and we were like, "What? What? Why did you leave the gallery?" They were telling him what size to paint the paintings, what colors to use, and they were dictating to him what to paint. And what is going to kill your soul more than that? I mean, I know personally for me, if somebody says, "Oh, I want you to paint a barn, a really pretty barn out in the country," I'm like, that's not what I do. I'm like, if I'm going to be in a gallery, I want them to say, just make more of what you do and we'll sell it. Not, oh, draw me a monster that has pink hair and it's got to be this exact size and all that. And I mean, nothing will kill my creativity quicker than that. Yeah. So I've given up on the whole idea of being discovered and being famous and all that kind of stuff. I just want to be having fun at what I do.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. As soon as you put guardrails on art, it just absolutely ruins it. Even now, like I'm currently working on a painting which is for a friend who said to me, moved into a new place. I want something for my space. Can you make me something? And I said, I will do it on 3 conditions.
Yeah.
1, you pay for the supplies because, supplies aren't cheap. 2, I can make whatever I want. I will make something for you, but I can make whatever I want. And 3, you can reject it and I won't feel bad because in the end, I made something I like in the first place.
Yes.
So if you get it at the end and you're not happy with it, cool. No money lost. We're good. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
But that's the only way I'm making you this commission.
Yeah, I did a commission when we first moved to Atlanta, and I normally don't do commissions, but I said, we need the money. I'll do it. And this guy kept telling me, oh, you can do whatever you want. Just he basically what he did was he gave me some song lyrics. And he said, you can interpret them any way you want. I said, great, fine. And so I made a piece. And it's a piece I like, which I'm glad. But in the end, he said, no, I don't, that's not really what. Well, and I'm like, well, you said I could do anything I want. And,
I did, yeah.
And so this commission that I thought was going to be easy turned out to be a little bit more difficult than I wanted it to. So now I'm back to the whole, I'm not going to do commissions because it's just,
do things you enjoy.
It's just a pain. It's just a pain in the butt. Just buy one of the pieces that I made already. That's cool and already exists. Don't dictate to me what to make. I don't want to. I don't want.
If you see the thing which inspired me, then buy that, and then we're good.
Yeah, buy something with a little spark to it, not something that's dead inside.
Exactly. Yeah, and just to speak to your previous point there as well of kind of discoverability, I think I think that it's something, especially now in this social media age where followers are followers and all that kind of thing, of that there is a value in discoverability, but discoverability is subjective, where you can have thousands and thousands of followers, but realistically, you're not going to sell thousands of things every day. You're going to end up just cranking out content. Whereas if you have 600 people on your Instagram and then you do a show and 600 people turn up, that's way more significant because that's 600 connections rather than, thousands of people who saw your thing once and clicked like.
Yeah, I saw that. Somebody put that out. And even if you use lower numbers, you're crying because your piece only got 40 likes. But if you had a show at a gallery and 40 people showed up, that'd be pretty good.
Yeah.
I can't recall ever having a show where hundreds and hundreds of people walked in the door, but if 40 people walked in, I'd be like, oh, that's a good show.
My favorite Zine Fair stories was I was talking to someone at Zine Fair tabling, and they said, I'm really worried that no one's going to come and look at my work. And they were sat there for most of the day, and like a few people had come and taken a look, but no one had bought anything. And they were kind of looking a bit down. And then it passed lunchtime, and one teenager came over and went, oh, I really like this. Bought one, disappeared, and came back 20 minutes later. And they'd only printed maybe 20 copies of their zine. They were gone by the end of the day.
Yeah.
And they were like, that's incredible. I was like, yeah, 20 people thought your work was cool. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Ride that.
And you
don't worry about everything else.
You can't judge a zine fest by the first hour or even sometimes the first half a day.
Yeah.
Because a different group of people are going to come in later. And, not to say that you're not going to have some experiences where you don't sell a lot, because that's going to happen too. But for the most part, I think I've only had one really bad experience. I think most of them have been, in some way. I mean, so what? I didn't make a ton of money. Did I meet some cool people? Absolutely. Did I pick up some zines and stuff by other people that I thought were amazing? Yes.
Every time.
Did I trade some cool stickers with people and talk to some of my people? I can't go to, I can't be walking around Target and all of a sudden there's one of my people and just strike up a conversation about art. But I know I can do that at a zine fest.
Yes. Yeah.
So there's more than one reason to go table at a zine fest.
And I think that translates back to the original topic point, which is, there's more than one reason to attend these events and create art and develop ideas, and it's that finding of your people, finding the like-minded folk that, like you say, have I been to a zine fest and spent more than I've made in money? Yes, more than once. Because every conversation I had was great. So.
And speaking in the spirit of cooperation, if you buy something that's super cool, that you love, show it off. Promote, put it on. I reserve my feed on Instagram for my work, but I'll put up stories about other people and stuff all the time. Like if I buy a really cool book at a zine fest, I'll put it up on stories and say, this person is making some cool stuff. Check it out. If that's the only thing you do to cooperate, let's help each other. Let's promote each other. I mean, you're not stealing $1 from me, and I'm not stealing $1 from you. I mean, if you're looking at it that way, that's terrible. Let's promote each other. And I don't know any zinesters out there that are driving Porsches and living in mansions. So
if they are, they're doing it wrong.
Yeah. So let's promote each other and help each other out, and don't, just show other people what you love. You know, this person made a zine and it is so cool. I love it so much. I want you to love it too. So we do that
way to
with
collaborate.
we do that with songs. We do that with bands. You know, we do that with movies. Let's do that with art and zines and stuff like that.
I think that's a powerful message to bring this thing to an end.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
Reverend Marty has spoken.
See, the ministry training shines through. You're very good at
Oh,
the
absolutely.
auditory.
I will summonize brothers and sisters.
People say that I look like a preacher.
You look like an old prophet.
Yeah. Even though I'd like I'm leading a small cult, but you know, the less said about that, the better. But I have two questions to round this out on, which I ask every guest, and very simple questions to end with. Though you do get some thinking time to kind of mull it over.
All right.
Can be related to art, can be related to anything. But in your opinion, what is just a genuinely great piece of advice?
Right now, mine is just have fun as much as possible. Have fun. Have fun doing what you do. Um, you know, if you make art, have fun doing it. Don't create pieces that you think people are going to like. Create a piece that you love and you had fun making. You know, same goes for a song, a poem you wrote, whatever. Enjoy the process. Enjoy the process.
Don't fight the process either, because it'll win every time.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a harder lesson to learn, but
yeah, for sure.
Alrighty. And then my last question is obviously I found you through other people, but I ask everybody, who should I speak to next?
I'll tell you two people if that's okay.
Sure.
My friend Craig that I spoke about a couple of times on here. His handle on Instagram is Nanotomic. He creates he does collage, but lately he's been doing more ceramics. I would say that they're collage ceramics, and they're very interesting. But he is a true creative soul and just a cool guy, and he's one of my best friends in the world, and I love talking to him, so I know that you would too. And then the other guy, this is an artist that I admire greatly. His name is Paul Rentler, and he goes by Prentler on Instagram, Prentler. And the work he makes is phenomenal. I love it. It's very similar to what I'm doing now. And I think people think that I copy him a lot, but I had kind of stumbled onto doing what I do before I even discovered him. But when I saw what he did, it pushed me in a direction that I never would have gone before. And I love what he does. And I don't know if he would speak to you, but I think the art that he does is amazing. And anytime I have a question for him, he is always open to answering and having a conversation on Instagram messages. He's never been standoffish. He's always been an open guy, a really open person to talk to. So those I'm gonna recommend those two.
That sounds good. And I like how it also links into the general message of this podcast, which is just general collaboration.
Exactly.
Right. I will give them an email, as I always do. I always drop a cheeky message or a slide into the DMs. Calling the art world out there. But it's been lovely to talk to you, Marty.
This has been a wonderful conversation. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate you coming on. And yeah, in that case, we will round it out there, and we will talk to these guys later.
All right. Bye.